Good morning. We're doing a little video log on our garden. So our veggie garden, we've been planting here since the middle of May, and yeah, this is the result of 1.5 months of planting, pretty much. We have an end lot, so there's nobody here at the other side, and this is kind of like the border. Let's start over here. The big guy that we see here is actually a bit of a surprise addition. We never really planned for him, but this is, I believe, a radish. And it was picked out from one of the hundreds of seeds that we planted in the beginning of the season in this lot, from the sprouting seeds, the sandwich sprouts that we had bought. Those are actually just supposed to be sprouted and then you just eat them on sandwiches and whatnot, but we tried growing some of them here and they started growing really interestingly. And one of them was this like beautiful big plant. I mean, it's like about 300 times larger than when I transplanted him, but I mean, just look how beautiful it is. It's so big. And yes, I think this is a radish. I don't know what kind of radish. It's huge and it's really taken over here. I'm a little concerned about the beets at the end. Maybe we'll try and contain this somehow, but yeah, it's just thriving over here. So we got 2 rows of beets, and in between we have a transient planting of arugula. This is probably going to disappear over the weekend. I'm going to pull it out. Or maybe I'll wait until the flowers become seeds that we can harvest and save for next year or even later this season. Look at those. Even the flowers. Just so beautiful. Yeah, so we've been trying to thin out the beets a little bit, and being the plant saver that I am, I try not to let the sprouts that we pull out go to waste. So either we eat them, or here I've tried to transplant one of them. As you can see, it's not it's definitely not thriving, but surviving. The stalks are beginning to strengthen again, and the new growth is pretty good actually. So yeah, I think he's gonna survive. He may be a bit of a late comer in the season, but we don't mind that, because like right now we got all of these other plants that are sort of like gonna mature exactly at the same time, so it's good to have things staggered a little bit. Yeah, so you can see it's so dense here. So this row has been sort of thinned over here, but I think this one is fine. We'll see. Once I take out the arugulas, we'll see how much space there's left. So now these are our beans, and they're just starting to go to flower. Oh, and actually here, I think these are the beginnings of beans? Is that it? Oh, that is so cool. So that will be the first time I see that. It's so funny, because like when the plant first started to create these like pods, I'm like, oh, that must be the beans. But so I'm talking about these guys. Like first time I saw these guys, I'm like, oh, that must be a bean, but actually these are flowers. And then once the flowers have flowered, like this is what a flower looks like when it's opened up. But once the flower is done, and hopefully the pollinators have done their job, you get a little guy like that coming out. It's just so cool. And yeah, there's a lot going on in here. So we have to, these are bush beans. So we're trying to train them to climb up this thing, but we'll see. Okay, so here we get to our tomato plants. We got 5 tomato plants stagger planted here. I think it probably was too much, but we'll see how it goes. And we even discovered that the first plant here happens to be 2 plants, not just 1. A bit of a mistake, but you know, we're gonna roll with the punches here. So yeah, this guy is like one of the first ones that started to bloom and also is producing tomatoes, and it's just amazing to watch what's going on with this guy. That guy must be our most mature tomato so far. But yes, there are flowers all over, and I do need to trim all the leaves. It's literally a jungle here. Sorry about the background noise. They're doing work in our common space, which is also necessary. Here is our bok choy plant. It is currently bolting, but it's been doing so well for us. It's produced so much greens, and we've benefited a lot from it over the past 1.5 months. So it's fine that it goes to seed and starts bolting. I'll try and see what happens after it goes to seed, if we actually can collect the seed pods afterwards. So I'm gonna just let this go. I'm gonna have to tell Michael about that, otherwise he's just gonna cut this off. And then we got our gorgeous chard. It is just so beautiful. These leaves are just amazing. So bouncy. Yeah. This giant leaf. I mean, do you see this? It's like, it's so big. Like, and the colors are amazing. Love chard, and the taste's amazing. Love doing stir fries with them. Definitely gonna plant more of this later in the season. Here is our little patch of Italian parsley. This guy is literally growing like a tree. Like, do you see how big this stem is? It is just massive. It's huge. I don't know if this is normal, but yeah, it's just unbelievable. And it's just going taller and taller. We got 4 plants planted in this square foot here. Yeah, this guy, probably we're gonna pull him out this weekend. He's going to flower, and I mean, as nice as that is, we don't want its seeds spread everywhere. It's a bit of a creeper. Yeah, so we're gonna pull him out. But it was good while it lasted. Dill, good while you lasted. This is our little patch of escarole. Never even heard of escarole before this season, so decided to try and plant some stuff. It's doing really well right now, but gotta say it took a long time to get to this point. This was a very empty part of the garden for a while. I don't know what we'll do differently next time. Maybe we'll start the seedlings indoors first before bringing them out. I mean, obviously we didn't have time, but this year we didn't have time. Everything just happened so quickly. But yeah, I don't know if maybe we planted the seeds too deep, and so it just had to work so hard to get up to the surface. I don't know if that's a thing. But yes, slow to start, but really showing a lot of growth lately. I think it's loving the hot and humid weather. And probably we'll do an escarole only salad very, very soon. And here is our little basil patch. These are seedlings, but like we also had bought 2 starters from the grocery store, or the convenience store I should say. Finally they're doing so well. Like, it was so hard to get them happy. They were suffering a bit in the beginning of the season. I don't know why, but the leaves were turning yellow, wasn't growing very robustly at all. And there's another plant on the inside there that is like, I need to cut this back a bit, but like, yeah, there you go. Definitely not as big as its brother here, but yes, finally doing well. So here you can see a bit more of a panorama of the 5 tomato plants that are completely blown over. I don't know if you can tell, but they just all want to like lean towards here because the wind is coming from the west and going east, and the cages are just like bent over. Yeah, we're gonna have to secure this weekend. Probably we'll get like a large stake and just secure it here with a giant stake, because these are all indeterminate, they're gonna just continue growing up and up and up. We probably should have put the tomato plants up against the lattice rather than our little bushy guys here. Oh look, it's a ladybird on the marigold. Okay, and now we're at the peas section. These are so cute. We built this like giant cathedral of a lattice for them, but just hanging out down here. And they've been extremely productive lately. This is one of the older guys. I think we'll be picking him this weekend, but just doing so well. And it's interesting because like the pods are sort of like camouflage, so sometimes you really have to look very, very closely to see, like you can see there, for the pods that are growing in between the super vibrant and green leaves. Even down here, there's like a whole cluster of them. I love the little tentacles that sort of like, I mean, we obviously want them to hang on to the lattice, but it doesn't always want to do that, and we jokingly say that whenever they get entangled like this, that they're wringing their hands, which I think is such a funny image just to think about a plant that is wringing its hands. And finally, here is our sort of like cash crop. We're not talking about the lettuce, which unfortunately is looking a little sad. I did a transplanting and thinning of the lettuce, and finally it is finally recovering a bit. You can see it's nice and crispy in here, but yeah, these leaves are a little bit more beaten up and battered from the transplanting and just being dehydrated for a bit, so they'll probably just die off, but the real good stuff is in here now. They finally have more space to grow, so that's good. We harvested at least like 9 separate plants that were all growing together, and now here's one plant, another plant. It's still pretty tight. This one here was stuck to a peat moss plug, so it couldn't really pull it apart, but there's another one that's solo, another peat moss cluster, although that one is sort of like, it had good space, so we left him, and it's just been continuing on as it was. But yes, we're happy to see that these are recovering, otherwise we were just gonna like pull it out after the botched transplant. And what I really want to highlight in this, what's really going to be the amazing exciting thing about this plot is the rutabaga. So we have 2 rows of rutabaga, and here, yeah, they've really grown a lot the past week or so. Like, they used to be just like tiny little runts. These are all grown from seed. And so this row is an American, I think it's like called, like it's like an American variety. And then there's a Laurentian variety, which apparently is more related to the type that we find in Europe. So I'm guessing this is the one that's gonna be more akin to what we found and loved when we used to live back in Norway, but also excited to see what this is going to yield, what it's going to taste like, or if it even is going to successfully grow here. This is the crop that I can't find in supermarkets, and I've been wanting to eat rutabaga, but because it's not widely available here, it's been really hard to find. Sometimes my parents are able to find it in ethnic food stores outside of town, like outside of Toronto, I mean, in Brampton and in places that are outside of here, but in your kind of like standard supermarket, I have not been able to find it. So we're hoping that these are gonna supply us with some great rutabaga to eat and to mash up and to enjoy for the fall. They take about 2.5 months to mature. So probably this weekend we may have to thin these out. Like, they're growing very tightly now. It's like about 1 inch apart between each plant. I think we need at least 3 inches of space for them to grow, because they become like fairly big in size and they need space. So there you have it. That is our little veg garden. Thank you for watching, and see you around.